Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Flatout Racing Network. Here we are at Phoenix International Raceway for race number 2 of the Great Lakes Premier Series. I'm joined in the booth by Alex Kolonix. Alex, how we doing?
Doing all right here at Phoenix Raceway, a nice little track out here in Avondale, Arizona. Fantastic little facility here for some great action that we've got 200 laps tonight for these drivers. It's going to be fun.
It's definitely going to be a blast out there. Great Lakes 150, race number 2 of the season, and they're starting off the season right at this racetrack. A speedway, but it has a short track feel here at Phoenix International here, Alex. What are you looking forward to today?
I'm looking forward to seeing how these drivers handle themselves on these longer runs. Like I mentioned, 200 laps, a lot of time, and a lot of opportunity for green flag laps. After the first couple laps, typically we see these races go green, so that long run pace is going to be crucial.
Tires. Are going to be hearing about it all day. 200 laps around Phoenix International Raceway here today. And it looks like on the pole we have Phil Bedford getting the pole. A great lap from him. And Heller will be on his outside today. We were looking at practice, Alex. One driver I feel always for a track like this that's really a driver's track and all about tires. A driver I was really watching was Elliott Henderson for sure. I think he'll definitely be a threat to win here today, but I'm thinking my pick is going to be RJ Williams to win here tonight, Alex. RJ Williams is just so strong at these sort of tracks. And the last time the Premier Series was here, when they were the Great Lakes Cup Series in Season 2, RJ Williams was the winner.
Well, I'm going to be looking at tonight. Starting further back in the pack isn't great in qualifying, but looking at his lap times in practice, I'm pretty confident in this driver's long run pace. I'm picking Daniel Nanny to come forward to the front of the field tonight. As long as he doesn't get into any trouble, I think he'll be up there.
You're seeing your starting grid start to run on the bottom of your screen. Good lap from Nick Martin, by the way. Nick Martin, a driver we don't usually see starting up near the front. Nick Martin, one of those drivers that usually starts near the back and he'll work his way up near the front, near the end of the race, but starting up at third. So a very good lap from him. So I'm going to be watching out for that 42 machine here tonight.
Yeah, he could be a bit of a wild card here. Is looking through a lot of his times in practice. He spent a lot of time doing qualifying practice, 2 to 3 lap, very short runs, looking for a lap time. So we'll see how he does after those few laps.
And of course, coming off of Daytona last week, our winner was William Barbagelata, Mr. Excitement, who is not in the field tonight, but our points leader is in the field, and our points leader is Nathan Nicholson coming into this race 1 point above William Barbagelata. Nicholson looking to capitalize on a couple of those front drivers and points, Barbagelata and Matthew Rodriguez not being in the field here tonight, looking to capitalize and get as many points as he can here tonight.
Yeah, this could be a race that really changes the championship, I'd say. I mean, Daytona was a wild card. Anybody could go in and get a lot of points, but at this racetrack, a lot more of a driver's racetrack, we'll really see who's going to be strong this year for this championship.
Lights are now out on the pace car. They will be going green flag this time by. Some of you fans out there aren't used to seeing the updated version of Phoenix International iRacing updated Phoenix International Raceway a few months ago. It looks very nice. This is very special to me personally because I'm going to be camping at this track in 1 week. So I always enjoy coming to Phoenix. Personally, I'm not a very good racer here, but I do enjoy watching the racing here.
It's always some kind of racetrack to look at and see how these drivers handle it. But the pace car's down pit road. Now, one of the interesting things that we're going to see with these restarts, the pace car comes into the pit lane well before the green flag comes out for these drivers. So they have to pace themselves around this racetrack, which can really throw off the pack and allows the leader to go whenever they want.
Sounded like they were discussing restarts in the restart zone over the pace lap, and They're going to go in the restart zone. There goes Phil Bedford, the driver of the number 20 Hardee's machine. It's a great start to the race. Christopher Heller right in behind him, and here comes Nick Martin, Zachary Henry, and RJ Williams, your top 5 coming into 1 and 2 on lap number 1.
I saw a big checkup there on the bottom as well. I think a couple rows deep, there was a driver, I believe Barkowski, checked up right into the nose of Elliott Henderson. We'll have to see if any damage results from that. And massive bump from Elliott Henderson spins him into Ashton Lawson. Barkowski sent in Ashton Lawson. Caution is out.
And there goes Ashton Lawson into the wall. Hard damage for the 24 and the number 25 on lap number 1 of 200 here at Phoenix International. Some heavy hitters involved in that incident. Henderson might have gotten involved in that as well, it looked like. Barkowski has damage. Ashton Lawson immediately towed his machine down pit road. And we're gonna take a look at this replay here, Alex.
Well, I was hovering over what just happened. Elliott Henderson just behind Brandon Barkowski. Braked a little bit later than him, sent him into the corner, right into Ashton Lawson. And just behind them as well, I believe that's the 30 car got sent into that wreck as well. So multiple drivers involved in this incident right on the first lap of the race.
It also looked like the number 71 of Ty Aiken spun it around as well in 3 and 4 and got heavy contact to his nose into the outside wall. Here's the 71. He just gets clipped in the quarter panel right there. I'd like to maybe take an onboard view of the 71. But yeah, Aiken looked like he was clear of it and just barely got clipped in the quarter panel by the number 24 machine of Ashton Lawson, who was spinning. Here we go. Here's a view of the number 71 of Ty Aiken. Gets into the back of the number 10 of Hunter Brittle, it looks like. And he looks like he's clear of it, but no. Gets clipped just barely by Lawson. That's very heavy nose damage for the number 71 machine.
Yeah, that just took out a lot of really strong drivers in the very first wreck of the race right on lap 1. That's one thing I feel like should have been mentioned, is that this setup is really tricky on cold tires. It's very, very loose, but has a very good balance later on, as we see the onboard camera Ashton Lawson in the car. That was just nothing he could have really done there. He was trying to take the corner appropriately, and a driver behind was just sent into him.
Hate to see it because Ty Aiken looks like he is already out of the race. Ashton Lawson is yet to retire. I think he's still on pit road in the number 24 machine getting repairs, but just very heavy contact. You're going to see it again from the number 24. Just hits the wall very hard in the outside wall in 3 and 4 and immediately tows his machine down pit road. Just hate to see it that this early in the race. A very, very long race here today, 200 laps. And you mentioned it, Alex, a lot of very good race cars already out of this race or at least have heavy damage.
Yeah, and one of them that I'm surprised did not come into the pit lane is Brandon Barkowski, starting their 3rd row on the outside. He has some pretty significant back-end damage, sure to have some front end after hitting Lawson, so he could be a bit of a roadblock for all the guys right behind him.
About to go back green flag racing here. Phil Bedford approaching the restart zone. The number 20 machine of Phil Bedford on the inside, Heller on the outside. And there goes Bedford, a great restart from the number 20 machine. Heller on the outside still. Henry looks like he's going to take away that 2nd spot. He's going to cut through the dog leg. And you just see the craziness through the dog leg. Just very exciting racing here at Phoenix on those restarts.
Yeah, and as I mentioned just before, I was hovering over Barkowski. He fell back many, many spots with his damage, so his night is essentially done with the incident from that wreck. As we're seeing, drivers start to single file out. RJ Williams finds the position. Drivers around.
Hunter Madalena spins around. It looks like he had contact from the number 23 of Jacob Bransky. They were 3 wide with Cole Bradley on the inside. Wow, I don't know if Bradley maybe got into Bransky. I caught that incident halfway through. Looks like there is some damage on the number 54 machine of Bradley, though, now that I'm looking at him. There's some pretty significant nose damage on the number 54 and some bumper damage on Bransky. We're going to take a look at the replay here. It looks like, wow, another incident on the first lap. And here you see the number 54, Bradley, sends it in there on Jacob Bransky, and Bransky gets sent up into Hunter Madalenas, and Madalenas, very heavy contact into the outside wall in about the same spot that Lawson just hit a moment ago.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem corner down there. These cars, they brake really, really hard to get down into turn 3 to get the launch out of turn 4. Some drivers have different braking points than others. Some try and carry more speed in. Some try and ease it in a little bit. And that difference is what's causing all these incidents. You're seeing other drivers sending it in, trying to carry more speed. You're seeing other drivers back it up to get the run off. So all these different driving styles are causing a bunch of incidents down here in turn 3.
This is 100% a driver's track here at Phoenix. Different driving styles, especially on these restarts, those driving styles are going to collide. A track like Phoenix, the restarts are very chaotic. Those first couple laps, and you're seeing it here. Here's an onboard look at Madalinas as well. But it's just, you just hate to see it at a track like this. But if they get a couple laps underneath their belt, this could be a fantastic race here at Phoenix Raceway. I know they could do it here. It's just restarts are very, very crazy at tracks like Phoenix International with all the different driving styles just colliding together.
Yeah, well, that is one of the unique things about this racetrack is that these drivers just struggle at the restarts. These restarts are very, very chaotic. I mean, turns 1 and 2 is very wide. You could carry a lot of speed around the outside, try and run it around the bottom and have it very tight. But when they get down into turn 3, they need to figure it out before they get going, because if they're still racing side by side, we could see trouble happen, and that's where we've seen a lot of wrecks.
Already 2 incidents so far here today with a lot of heavy hitters already involved in incidents here today. You have Aiken involved, Lawson, Madalinas, Barkuski, Henderson, some Hunter Brittle. Some of these drivers are Great Lakes' best drivers, and we're not even 10 laps into the event, and they already have at least a decent amount of damage on their machine, and some of them are out of the race. Ashton Lawson is now retired from the race as well.
Yeah, Ashton Lawson right involved in that first incident. That's going to severely hurt him in the points standings. He's one driver that could have been looking at this year as a bit of a contender. He is very, very strong in the truck series, so unfortunate end to his night here in the Premier Series. We'll have to see who ends up getting the win, as right now, so far, it's just been restarts, and Phil Bedford's been in full control of that, absolutely destroying these restarts with no competition.
Yeah, these restarts have been very, very good for Bedford because he's able to cut right through that dog leg, and he just has a huge advantage as well, other than just being the leader. Here we are coming into the Geico restart zone once again here on lap number 9, about to start lap number 10. Here comes Bedford. He's going to go green once again. There goes Bedford, and Henry and Heller are going to battle out for that second spot. A fantastic restart from Bedford. I think that's the best one he's had yet. That's the biggest gap I think he's had yet, going into 1 and 2.
Heller did get going very well, as we see him running up right on the back bumper of Bedford. He's already looking for the pass going down into turn 3. A fantastic opening corner there from Christopher Heller. But I've noticed down in turn 3 and 4, that outside lane seems to be good to defend, and Phil Bedford will hold the position for now, but Heller will have the cut on the dog leg. But it just, Bedford had such a good exit, he's now clear of him, and now the battle's for second.
Yeah, Bedford had a phenomenal run coming out of the dog leg, and he's able to hang on to the top spot for now as Heller and Henry, the 2511 teammates, battle right in behind him. 2511 up here at the front. Henry looking to take the spot on the high side, and he's going to have the high side going through the dog leg. Let's see if he can do what Bedford did last time. Can he get that spot away from Heller? That dog leg just gets such a phenomenal run. Heller looks like he's going to clear him going into 1 and 2 there.
Let's check up a little bit for the leader, but RJ Williams is looking to insert himself into this fight. And look who's just behind RJ in 5th position. Nathan Nicholson from the 17th starting position has found himself into the top 5, looking for that lead pack, as Christopher Heller, now inside of Phil Bedford, loses out on it, and now the battle's for 3rd.
Driver I'm really looking at is Hunter Madalinas. Hunter Madalinas is already up here in 7th place. The number 9 machine, he was just spun out. He just spun out on that last caution flag. He's up here in 7th place. We have this battle for third really intensifying here with Williams and Henry. Williams is going to send it into 3 and 4, not able to get in front of the number 12 yet.
That really was a phenomenal corner there from RJ Williams. It's very hard to get the run off on the bottom. He should have the advantage down here in 1 and 2. Pulls ahead a little bit. We'll have to see if he can clear him coming off the exit. Extremely tight. Henry checks up. That puts RJ into third.
RJ Williams, the short track specialist right here, takes away that third spot as Madalinas and Henderson look to be battling right in behind him. Here comes Jacob Manning as well in the number 1 machine. He looks strong on the high side, looking to take away this spot from Henderson. Henderson was not able to get the run off the corner in 1 and 2, and now Manning's looking to take away the spot.
Yeah, and just in front of them, like you mentioned, Hunter Madalinas, I believe I saw while we were covering that third place battle, I thought I saw him get into the wall. He does have some pretty significant right front damage in front of this pack behind him. He may be slowing down a bit, and that could be causing this battling.
The battle for the lead is beginning to intensify. Williams has been catching up to Heller, and Heller has been catching up to Bedford, and these 3 drivers are right here ready to battle. And here comes Henry, Nicholson, and Nick Martin as well, not too far behind these 3. Bedford looking to hold on to the lead. He's led the first 16 laps of this race.
The great part here about Phoenix Raceway, maybe a 1 mile long track, but dirty air is nowhere near as much of an issue as you see at other facilities like Dover, which is also a mile long. This flat, very slow corner style of racing promotes a lot of driver talent into the equation, and we're seeing this extremely close racing here at the front of the field.
This is some great racing right here, Alex, up here at the front of the field. Bedford, Heller, and Williams. Bedford looking to snag a win. He looked very strong last year, but it was just so hard for him to find victory lane in the number 20 machine. Heller comes off 2 championships last year. 1 Season 2 Cup Series championship and the Winter Series championship. And RJ Williams just dominates these sort of racetracks. One of the best drivers in the Great Lakes Series. 3 of some of the best drivers here in Great Lakes battling out here at Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned at the beginning, you picked RJ Williams. He is a phenomenal short track driver, and this is kind of a style of racing that fits his driving style very well. But driver who's definitely showing his muscle right here is Christopher Heller as he looks to the inside of Phil Bedford down into turn 3. He might struggle to get that exit speed. It looks he went a bit too deep, and Phil Bedford loses it. Now that allows RJ to get underneath him.
RJ Williams, he's going to try to pounce on that second spot and take it away from Christopher Heller on that inside in the number 21 machine. Windshield deep machine underneath the Pit Viper machine.
RJ's been extremely good down here in turns 3 and 4. We'll see if he gets another great exit down here. It looks like he got into it good, and there he goes. Launches off the corner. Easily one of the best drivers I've seen in this race get through that set of corners.
Just a perfect set of corners from the number 21 of RJ Williams, and it puts him in the second spot. And now he sets his sights on the number 20 machine of Phil Bedford. Can he drive him down? He's around a half second. He's around a half second back from the number 20 right now.
All right, so who do you say is going to be stronger here in this latter part of the run? We've gotten a little bit of a green flag run here as we see the pass from my personal pick, Daniel Nanny. He's one that I'm looking to make up a lot of spots, has a lot of really good long run pace, and if this race continues to stay green as it's been, he might find himself up there in the top 5.
I'm looking at those 2 cars in green right there. I'm looking at Bransky and Henderson, 1-2 in the championship last year. Both these drivers have a lot of talent, and I know both of them are really good on long runs. So I'm really feeling Bobby Carter and the dog.
Yeah, though it's a bit surprising their current position right now. They have actually fallen back from their initial starting spot. They were both in 7th and 9th respectively. Now they're just barely inside the top 10, just outside of it. So they lost a little bit on that initial start, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising, the number 37 and the number 23 falling back. But you have to think maybe they're possibly saving their tires. I mentioned it earlier. Once these drivers begin to separate a little bit, it tends to go out for a long green flag run. These restarts get very chaotic, but once everybody gets separated, it tends to be really long green flag runs here at Phoenix International
I
Raceway.
hate to cut you off, but down here, 3 and 4, battle for the lead. RJ Williams has caught up to Phil Bedford, has gotten to the inside. He's been running him down and finally made the move. Will he be able to stick it? Does not look like it, but he's been really, really good around these corners.
Bedford doing a great defensive line right there, the number 20 machine. That high side is just so hard to get past on the inside. You have to run a perfect line, a perfect set of corners, and we saw it a moment ago from the number 21 machine of RJ Williams when he passed Christopher Heller. Can he do the same thing to get past Bedford here?
The difficult part about running that outside like Phil Bedford's been doing is that you carry a lot more speed to run a good lap time, and that burns off a lot more tire than you would be running the bottom. As he gets a little low on the exit, that allows RJ to close up. Will he make the move to the inside, or will he wait another corner? Looks like he's making the move. Dives down into turn 3. Looks like he has a good corner. He'll have a good launch.
RJ's been so strong in 3 and 4. I don't think he's going to make the pass quite this time. He's going to have to try to send it right here into 1 and 2 and try to clear Bedford in the center. Can he clear him? Can he get up in front of him? He wants to, but he just can't. And there's contact. He puts him in the wall. Oh, hard contact. Phil Bedford slams the wall very, very hard. And Christopher Heller is now your race leader. There is no caution.
Both drivers kept it going, but absolute calamity for 2 of our fastest drivers out on track. That's going to absolutely kill their races, especially with the caution not coming out.
Wow, very, very heavy contact for both of those drivers. RJ Williams was really trying to clear Bedford, and he just wasn't quite clear, and they ended up making contact, and Bedford caught the worst of it. Very heavy contact to the wall, and you have to feel for Bedford there, Alex. He started on the pole, and he's led every lap so far, and now his race is pretty much done. He goes from the lead to a done race, pretty much.
Yeah, it looked like it was just extremely tight racing. It looked like RJ might have come up a little bit, but it also, at the same time, looked like Phil Bedford just didn't leave enough space, and both drivers made contact, and both of them into the wall, as we see Jacob Bransky looking to capitalize on that damage.
Bransky looking to make the pass on RJ Williams. It looks like he's going to make it pretty easily right here through the dog leg, and now here comes Henderson right in behind Williams as well. That damage is really affecting the number 21 machine of RJ Williams as he continues to fall back.
You know what this really did to the racing order right now? That caused Christopher Heller, the first driver to be able to miss the wreck without having to check up, to gap the field by 1 full second. Almost 1.2 now over Zachary Henry in second.
Christopher Heller is pretty comfortable up there right now in the number 11 machine. He is in very, very comfortable territory. The number 12 machine, his teammate, Zachary Henry, is a little over a second back. Then you have Nathan Nicholson in third, Nick Martin in fourth, and Daniel Nanny rounding out your top 5. But Daniel Nanny is around 3 seconds back of Christopher Heller right now. So there's some big gaps here on the racetrack right now. Looking at Zachary Henry right now in the second spot as he's trying to drive down his teammate of Christopher Heller right now. But right now, Heller and Henry are running around the same lap times as we speak.
Yeah, I'm checking up on some lap times, and it seems really, really even right now. I'm not seeing a lot of big gaps between what times these drivers are getting, though what I am seeing is that the pace is falling off pretty significantly now. We're over a second slower than what we were at the beginning of the run. So these drivers are now starting to slow down a lot. The corners are starting to slow down. We're going to see some more passing as we see Nathan Nicholson right on the rear bumper of Zachary Henry.
That's what it feels like to chew 5 gum right there.
I'll give that one a little chuckle, but I won't give it any more. But Nathan Nicholson's chopping the dog leg off, trying to get some spots there on Zachary Henry. Not able to do it, but where he's been really strong against him has been down here in turns 1 and 2. He's been able to roll the center and get a very good exit speed, but he does struggle a little bit down here in 3 and 4. It hasn't been as good.
Henry doing a very good job right now of holding on to this spot, holding on to the second position, but these drivers are losing around a tenth and a half the last couple of laps to Christopher Heller. They're around 1.6 now back of race leader Christopher Heller. Nicholson needs to make this pass fast. Nicholson seems like he has a little more speed than Henry right now.
Yeah, I think Nicholson probably is a little bit quicker, but that lack of exit speed coming out of turn 4 is really hurting him. He needs to figure out how to get a good run out of turn 4, because that's where most of the passes are going to be made. If you can get a good run out of turn 4, like we saw with RJ Williams earlier, it's going to be significantly easier to make passes.
The driver I've been watching the last few laps that's been on the move is Jacob Manning, the number 1 machine of Jacob Manning. He has a lot of speed right now. He's been running some very, very strong laps, running similar laps as the race leader, Christopher Heller. And now he's looking to make the pass on Daniel Nanny. You see it right here. Here comes the number 1 machine of Jacob Manning. Manning actually had the quickest lap that last time by in the number 1 machine.
Manning has been extremely strong. Looking at his previous laps, I mean, compared to everybody else, he's been almost a tenth faster a lap than all of the leaders. So he's running some extremely rapid lap times this long into the run.
Manning moving into the top 5. And that puts 4 out of the top 5 drivers, 25-11 drivers. So 25-11 putting on a show here today in the Premier Series. 4 out of the top 5 drivers are part of 25-11, the other being Nathan Nicholson.
I mean, they've kind of got a stranglehold on the field right at the moment. After that incident between the 2 leaders who were not a part of that group, it kind of just left them out on their own. They're showing up really well tonight. Maybe they had some drivers' cooperation, maybe a conference meeting to negotiate how to drive this racetrack, and they've all benefited from it.
Bradley really trying to cut the dog leg right there in the number 54 machine to get past Madalinas. Some hard racing back here for what it looks to be the 10th spot between Hunter Madalinas and Cole Bradley. Both with some pretty damaged race cars here, but Bradley really wants to make this pass on Madalinas, and he sends it really hard, and there's contact. He gets into Madalinas in the door, and he completes the pass.
That was an extremely aggressive move there from Cole Bradley. We're seeing a bit of communication from it from other drivers down on the radio, but that was a very, very aggressive move there from Cole Bradley.
Not the first aggressive move from Bradley this race, and probably won't be the last. A track like Phoenix Raceway, you need to show that aggression. There's a caution. It looks like Hunter Brittle. Hunter Brittle is wrecked on the back straightaway. Very heavy damage to the dark horse number 10.
Definitely going to have to see what happened there, because it looked like there were a lot of drivers just kind of gapped out running their races. We'll have to see what happened that caused the incident. I'm looking back. It looked like RJ Williams was near him before his wreck, but we'll have to see if there was contact or if it was just him. Extremely loose off the corner. No contact. He was just extremely loose with the race car coming out of turn 2 and just lost it.
Yeah, it looked like he almost had it gathered up off 3 and 4, and just he saw RJ to his inside, and he really did not want to hit RJ Williams, so he just hooked it right and hooked himself into the wall, and that was race over from that point for the number 10. And great job. I don't know who that is right behind them that got through. I couldn't quite make out who that was right in behind them in that black and blue machine, but great job making it through that wreck.
As we're looking back on the live, we're seeing all of the leaders down the pit lane. I imagine because, as we see replay now, Richard Tucker was the driver you were trying to point out there. Yeah, fantastic. Just got on the brakes very carefully, found his way through that wreck, and didn't take any damage from it. So, good job.
Leaders are currently on pit road, changing tires, getting repairs. I know a lot of these drivers have some pretty damaged race cars, so this is their chance to get some repairs. Oh, Bedford overshot his pit box there, and it looks like Chris Heller is going to be out of pit road first, and here comes Nicholson. Nicholson with a good stop puts himself in the second spot behind Heller.
The driver also found another spot there, Jacob Manning, who was really, really strong on that last run. Now currently, I believe, should be up into the 4th position, if I'm not wrong. So that's a good jump for him to find his way closer to the front of the field.
It looked like Nick Martin might have had a couple of repairs because he lost a lot of time, all the way back to 8th.
And Nick Martin must have really struggled on that pit stop because he's one of our faster drivers that has now found his way well down the order. Find a lot of cars who were struggling on that previous run, so we'll see if he could find his way back up to the front of the field. But guess what we're at now? Drivers back on new cold tires. We're going into another restart where these race cars are going to be very loose. Are we going to see another incident?
I think so here, Alex. I'm a big believer in cautions breed cautions, and I can definitely see another incident happening here. Just stacking up the field like this once again on these fresh tires. Some drivers are damaged, some drivers are not. Some drivers are pretty PO'd right now, and some are just chilling. So this can get real crazy real fast, especially with that dog leg, Alex.
Yeah, what I'm interested to see is that, unlike previous restarts, a lot of our quicker drivers, while in the back, do have a lot of damage and may not be battling nearly as hard. But in the same breath, the drivers who we saw involved in other incidents that did manage to continue running are now right in the middle of the field. And so could we see the wreck there, or will you believe that it's going to be at the front?
It really depends on where the aggression lies. The drivers I'm going to be really watching, one of them is definitely going to be Cole Bradley. We've already seen the aggression out of him. Bradley has a lot of speed, but he has a different braking point than some of these other drivers. So that's a driver I would definitely watch out for. And I would also watch out for Nick Martin. Nick Martin doesn't tend to be a very aggressive driver, but I know he wants to get up back to the front.
Yeah, and you do mention Cole Bradley is going to be starting on the bottom. So that's going to be a trouble place for his very deep entries as we've been seeing down into turn 3. So we'll have to see if he calms it down a little bit for this restart, or if that aggression keeps up.
Here they come into the Geico restart zone. Here comes the number 11, Chris Heller. Heller's going to lead him to the restart. Nicholson on his high side. And the green flag is waving once again here at Phoenix Raceway. And now the battle for second between Henry and Nicholson going into 1 and 2. Heller clears them both.
Another great restart just behind them by Daniel Nanny. Found the spot on Jacob Manning as Nicholson battles back into that second position on the outside. Very hard to make a move around that corner on the outside. So great driving there.
Nicholson has shown some speed here early, and I know he's hungry for a win in that number 51 machine. Comes into this race the points leader, and he's trying to get as many points as possible, and that would be the winner of the race. Can he get up there and take the lead away from Chris Heller? Heller's had a strong grip on the field since the prior incident.
Yeah, I mean, already Nicholson's had a fantastic run, avoided every single incident we've seen on track so far, so even finishing in this second spot will end up being a good race for him points-wise.
You saw Nick Martin trying to get up to the front. Nicholson continues to put pressure on Heller. He has not let him out of his sights. He's not up quite to his bumper, but he's just right there. He's not letting Heller get away from him.
I'm also hovering over on a battle back here in the back between Nick Martin, Hunter Madalinas. These two around these other cars have been battling extremely hard. I actually saw them make contact with Cole Bradley as they were going by and almost thought there was going to be a wreck down in turn 2. But Nick Martin slowly making his way back up. Seemed to have not gotten a great restart, but finds himself back in 8th looking to hunt them down again.
I did my own personal research on Nick Martin on why he lost those spots. It seemed like to me, first of all, he pulled into his pit box a little bit slow, but he lost most of his time because when you go down pit road, you have to drive through 1 and 2 on pit road. And a lot of drivers cut very low through pit road. Well, he was all the way up against the wall coming through pit road, so he lost a lot of time just on pit road, not even in his pit box.
Yeah, that's one of these unique quirks we see here on iRacing compared to real life. NASCAR kind of slaps down a penalty for running closer to the pit wall down through these curved corners, but here on iRacing, that's not a penalty. You can drive straight through pit boxes if you want to, and that's what you got to do to find these times down the pit lane.
Nicholson is right there. He's putting the pressure on the number 11. You saw it there in turns 1 and 2. He got really close to his bumper in the middle of the corner. It looks like he almost bumped him. Just had a different sort of run through the corner than the number 11 did. And he's just staying within 1.5 car lengths of that number 11 machine. There you see the number 51 right in behind the number 11, just continuing to put that pressure on Heller.
Yeah, these two are currently gapping out the field.
He's in the wall. Sorry to interrupt, but Daniel Nanny hits the wall pretty hard. Off turns 1 and 2, and Manning gets him in the quarter panel. A great save from Daniel Nanny. Oh my gosh, and Nanny's heart must be beating so fast, and he's going to lose some spots here.
I was about to say, I thought I heard somebody hit the wall in the back. You caught it out before I could even check it. Daniel Nanny into the wall, loses multiple positions. That moves, surprisingly, Jacob Bransky back into this fight, up to 6 now, looking for 5th on Jacob Manning.
Oh, you can't keep a dog in the doghouse, Alex. Here comes the dog up here trying to get up here in the top 5. Now he's looking to take away 4th from Jacob Manning. Manning continues to look strong here today, though, Alex. Here we are on the short run. He's looking to hang on to that spot. We saw how well he could do on the longer run.
Yeah, he really shot out like a cannon just about 20 laps into the run, so he's going to have to just hold on to that point, and I imagine we'll see him start running away with it again, but Bransky is just putting on so much pressure right now. He wants to find his way back up there after his initial struggles at the start of the race.
And up at the front, Nicholson just continues to just heckle Heller. He's just right there. He's actually closed in a little bit. He's within a car length at the moment. He's right there just waiting for Heller to make a mistake or slip up. Some good racing throughout the field right now.
Yeah, we will likely hover over this battle for a little bit because it just, at any moment, it looks like Bransky's going to make the move there on Jacob Manning. He's going to get a fantastic run out of turn 2. We'll see if he's able to do anything with it. Struggled a little bit at the very end of the corner. Manning holds on for now, but Bransky is relentless.
Bransky's just really trying to set Manning up and just try to get the perfect run on him. Just waiting for the perfect moment to make that move, but he better make that move quick because here comes Daniel Nanny. I know Nanny wants to get back up there. Nanny has shown he has a lot of speed. He just got in the wall a few laps ago, and he's trying to get back up there in the 4th spot.
And don't stop looking now, because right at the end of this little pack of cars is Nick Martin in that orange and white machine. He's found himself caught up to these drivers now after losing out on the restart, so he's running some really good laps at the moment.
Nick Martin has a lot of speed here today at Phoenix. He has definitely shown it with a great qualifying run and a great run so far in the race. Had a little bit of an issue on pit road. He lost a couple of spots. But he's trying to get back up there as he almost gets in the wall off turns 1 and 2. Great job keeping it off of the wall. He's just right now in that 8th spot, right in behind Aaron Duclos in the number 7, in the 7th position, I mean. We haven't mentioned Duclos at all yet, Alex. He's looking very good right now in the 97 machine.
Yeah, I was checking in periodically towards the further back end of the field on that initial run, and Duclos is one of those drivers that was kind of stuck back there. He didn't really have great pace on the initial start, but he must have found something out later on in that run and is applying it right now, as he's found a lot of pace and is now running comfortably inside the top 10.
Aaron Duclos, a quality driver, usually keeps pretty quiet up here in the top 10. He's very sneaky. That's probably why we haven't really talked about him much. He's a very clean driver and just takes his time getting through the field. And sometimes he gets into some pretty bad luck and bad situations. But right now he's up here in the 7th spot, having a pretty decent run here today, right in behind Daniel Nanny.
And he seems to be running up on Daniel Nanny a little bit. He seems to be pretty good down there in turns 3 and 4. Not as great down in 1 and 2, but if you could run the entry of turn 3 very well, you can save a lot of tire down there rather than having to turn so much coming off the corner. But you see, gap opens up a little bit down there in 1 and 2. If he could figure that out, he might find himself much further up the grid.
Still early on in this run, I'm waiting to see whose tires are going to come in, and it looks like RJ Williams has just retired from the race, and that's horrible to see. Had a lot of speed here today, and now he's out of the race after his contact with Bedford. And you saw Bedford get lapped a moment ago. He's way off the pace after that contact with Williams. Bedford's around a second off the pace right now of the race leader.
When you talk about whose tires are activating, I think Jacob Manning's have started to come in. He's gapped Jacob Bransky and has easily run down Zachary Henry. He's extremely rapid at the moment. One of the fastest cars on the racetrack by almost a 10th. So he's easily found a lot of pace here in the latter run, just like the first one.
He's kicking into high gear right around the same time as last time, but it's even hitting a little harder, I feel like, this time, Alex. He's driving with some confidence, the number 1 machine. He looked so strong at the end of that run, and the fact he was able to hold off Jacob Bransky for a couple of laps right there has to do a lot for a driver's confidence, and he's driven away from Jacob Bransky with ease as he's almost to Zachary Henry's bumper.
And I was also looking in the back there. I think I saw Nick Martin get into the wall just behind the lap car of Phil Bedford, so that's going to hurt his race.
Yeah, I was looking at it. It looked like Bedford had gotten into the wall, and Martin actually avoided him, but I think he actually got him in the bumper a little bit. Because now I'm looking at the 42. He has a little bit of nose damage. I think he got into the back of Bedford when Bedford hit the wall.
Yeah, from what I saw, I believe Phil Bedford got into the wall, and then just behind him, running a much faster corner exit, Zachary Henry ran into him and then also proceeded to run into the wall. So he gave himself some pretty massive damage with that incident.
And Nick Martin with some pretty significant damage on the number 42 machine. We're going to have to see how that affects him as the run continues. But Henry, Manning's there, Alex. Manning is there on Henry. Manning has driven him down. He's looking to get into the top 3.
Yeah, but I'm actually looking at the lap times. Zachary Henry's actually started running very similar lap times to Jacob Manning. I don't know if he was backing up a little bit to save a bit of tire and has flicked on the switch now, or maybe he's pushing it a little too hard just to keep the position. But what that's caused is that both of these drivers now are running down Nathan Nicholson ahead of him, who started to fall off the leader.
And Nicholson has fallen off Heller the last few laps. He's around a half a second back now of the race leader. You see Aaron Duclos. He's making a move on Daniel Nanny to the inside, and he's going to clear him through the dog leg. Duclos makes up another spot. Nanny been falling back ever since he hit the wall.
I really am hovering around these two drivers here in 3rd and 4th. They're running very, very quick lap times, and I keep checking in on Christopher Heller in the lead. I don't know if these two have started running a bit harder, getting near each other and trying not to battle as hard, but they seem to be pushing harder than Christopher Heller is right now, because Heller's been faster the last few laps.
I mean, these two drivers here are teammates. They are part of 2511 Racing. They might be working together for now just so they can get up to their other teammate, Chris Heller, the race leader. And right now it's working. They're catching up a little bit here and there, at least up to Nicholson. Heller's able to tie him, if not do a little better here and there in the number 11 machine, but they're definitely catching up to Nicholson, and they're looking to catch up to Heller as well here in the number 12 and the number 1 in 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, we're starting to see lap times now dip into the 29s as now Nick Martin is on the pit lane. Seems like his struggles are pretty much just about to end his day right now. Unfortunate for him, he was very, very strong there at the beginning of the race, lost out on a pit stop, and then got into an incident. So it's just an unfortunate series of events for him. But we're going to keep watching this battle for third. They've been extremely close to one another, and we never know when one driver's going to slip up and open it up or cause a battle to happen.
Henry's known to run a very clean, well race in the number 12 machine, just keeps himself there until the end of the race, and that's what he's trying to do right now. Zachary Henry, his teammate right in behind him, Jacob Manning. Manning's putting that pressure on. He's right there, but they're continuing to catch up on Nicholson. Manning not willing to quite make the move yet.
I think if you're in Manning's spot right now, or at least if I was in his spot, I would just relax. Clearly, Zach Henry in front of him. As he turns him into turn one, no conservation for him. Full aggression as he sends Zachary Henry down into turns 1 and 2.
I would just love to be in the 2511 Racing Discord right now. Oh man, there goes Zach Henry spinning into the outside wall in turns 1 and 2. Very heavy damage to the championship hopeful of Zachary Henry. And take a look at the replay here. Contact between 2511 teammates. Different braking points look like, just very slight contact. The littlest bit of contact from the number 1 machine to the number 12 sends Zachary Henry into the outside wall.
Yeah, what it looked a lot like to me is it just looked like different lines run at different times. He just made very, very slight contact, but what happened was he made slight contact to that left rear quarter of the race car, and it's very easy to send a race car this on edge around when you hit it in that part of the car. If he ran the same line, I think he would have just moved him out of the way, but where he hit him sent him around.
We are going to see the view right here for the number 12, and the 12 just goes around into the outside wall. Very heavy damage to the bumper. We're going to have to see how that affects his speed. It looked like he didn't get any nose damage or anything. Just very severe bumper damage. So we'll have to see how that affects him on this run as leaders are on pit road. A very close... Oh, I don't know who won the race off pit road. I think it was Manning. That was a very close race off pit road. Photo finish off pit road, and it was. Jacob Manning has taken the lead on pit road.
Yeah, we're looking to get the live update of it. Jacob Manning finds himself now in the lead position. Problem for him is he's not been as strong on that short run, much better on the longer run. Can he retain this spot against Christopher Heller just behind him, who's been very good on the short run, and now Jacob Bransky, who finds himself in the third spot.
And Bransky up here in third. Manning with the phenomenal pit stop, though, able to put himself out front. That was a literal photo finish at the line, and Manning is now the race leader. And like you said, Alex, he's been so strong on the long runs, but we haven't seen him too much on these short runs strut his stuff in the number 1 machine. But let's see what he can do. I saw him on that last short run. He didn't go up there and make any passes, but he was able to hold on to his position in front of Jacob Bransky. Bransky was not able to make a move on him. So let's see if he can do the same thing, especially with him in the lead here. He can have a great advantage on this restart and cut the dog leg and have around a half a second advantage if he plays his cards right going into 1 and 2.
Yeah, and the fantastic part is he's got 2 drivers, I would argue, very equal on speed just behind him, and Christopher Heller, Jacob Bransky. They're likely to be battling on this initial restart if they get the right restart just behind him. They could see side-by-side racing down into turns 1 and 2. But I want to point out somebody else real quick who was up here that fell back significantly. Nathan Nicholson, all the way down to what is currently the 6th position. He lost out a lot on that pit stop. And looking back on it, it looks like he didn't realize where his pit stall was and turned in a little too late, overshot it, and had to overcorrect 2 separate times before he could get the pit stop done.
Nicholson still up here near the front, so I think we'll be mentioning his name before we're done here. I think he will be able to get back up there. I think Nicholson has been the driver on the short runs. I feel like he's been the strongest driver on those short runs. Was not quite able to get past Heller that last time, but was able to stick with him pretty much the whole time as the pace car pulls it back down pit road. We're going to go racing here once again after caution number 4. Just over 120 laps to go here at Phoenix Raceway for the Great Lakes 150. Jacob Manning is going to lead him to the green flag as they approach the restart zone. Christopher Heller on his high side. Jacob Bransky right in behind Manning, and Duclos right behind Heller. And here comes the green flag waving once again here at Phoenix Raceway. A good start from the number 1 of Manning as he's really going to cut that dog leg almost into that inside wall. So close down to the inside. Great job from Manning. And Bransky sends it into 1 and 2 on Heller, and this is going to be a battle for the second spot.
Yeah, Bransky went really, really low with Manning down through the dog leg, found the position down into turn 1, loses out on it out of turn 2, but we're going to see where this battle comes from. We're probably going to see a fight for the lead. Jacob Manning's just not been as strong in the early runs, but Christopher Heller definitely wants to get that lead back.
Heller looking to take the lead back, but right now Jacob Manning is your race leader with Christopher Heller right behind him. Bransky in 3rd, Duclos in 4th, and Hunter Madalinas. He's back up here in the top 5, but he's getting pressure from Austin Moore right now for that 4th spot. And here comes Heller to the inside of the number 1 of Jacob Manning. As he goes inside in 3 and 4, can he complete the pass through the dog leg? You see him on the inside of Manning right there. This is some good battle right here.
Both drivers really loose out of turn 4, really loose into turn 1 as well. Their cars are just slipping, sliding all over the place, but they're running such fast lap times as Jacob Manning manages to hold off Christopher Heller for the lead temporarily, but I imagine Heller is going to be right back at him.
Manning able to hold on to the lead for now. Heller is really keeping Manning on his toes. Manning's going to have to run some fantastic laps to keep in front of Christopher Heller. And here comes Bransky and Duclos not too far behind them as well. Here you see the onboard of Heller as he follows the number 1 of Jacob Manning.
Looks like Manning might have turned the wick up just a little bit on this shorter run. We'll have to see how that affects them in the latter portions. But just behind them, Jacob Bransky's just been watching this battle the whole time like, yep, burn up your stuff. I'll be ready to pounce when you guys start battling, as he now finds himself just a little bit closer to Christopher Heller's bumper.
Oh, and Madalena slams the wall out of turns 1 and 2 very hard, almost a wreck behind him, and he is very slow down the back straightaway. A very, very heavy hit from the number 9 machine, as now we have a battle for the lead.
It looked like absolute calamity further on in the back. He still hasn't gotten going, as Christopher Heller has found himself in the best spot he's been yet this whole race, looking for the lead. He's not able to take it yet. We'll see if he dives it into turn 3 or if he takes it careful. Looks like he takes it a little careful, see if he gets the run off. This outside lane's been strong, but he seems to get the run dead even across the line.
Manning's pushing it hard, so I have to be curious. He's been so strong on those long runs. He's pushing it hard, trying to hang on to the lead here. He does not want to use his stuff up, because his advantage so far this race has been that long run speed.
Can we see Bransky behind them push one of them out and try and find himself into the 2nd spot? This fantastic battling for the lead is allowing the drivers behind to save tires. They've gone a full 2 laps side by side. Maybe Jacob Manning gets the advantage as he pulls ahead a little bit into 1.
Manning continues to hold the lead on the high side. It's just so hard to complete that pass. And Bransky sees Manning trying to hang on to the high side, and he's going to go to the high side and try to maybe make the pass on Heller. But Heller is able to get in front of Bransky for now. And then Bransky, he's going to cross over to the inside here. He's going to cut the dog leg and try to get on the inside of Heller now.
We've seen almost a shift from the beginning. It looked like that bottom was really strong down here 1 and 2, but we're seeing these drivers fight off one another a little bit on that outside. And then when they get down to 3 and 4, outside just wins out as Heller's able to hold off Bransky for now. and is able to clear him down in a 3.
Bransky's really putting the pressure on these two drivers right now. Heller and Manning have really been using up their stuff. Bransky hasn't really used much of his stuff up at all, and Duclos is literally just hanging out back there. Duclos has 100% of those tires left.
Yeah, what Duclos is just hoping for is that this goes green, because even though we're still so early in the run, they've already burned off enough that in the latter end, they're going to really be hurting on tires as they, again, just keep battling for this lead. This is exactly what Duclos in that 4th position wants.
Manning doing a good job on hanging on to the lead. He's done a good job of that so far, but I'm curious on when we get to that around that 20 lap point, does he have that long run speed still, or does he not have it at this point? He's been using up his tires trying to hang on to the lead with his teammate Chris Heller right in behind him. Heller to his inside once again through the dog leg.
Well, right now is where I've noticed Jacob Manning be the slowest, is in this kind of 10 to 15 lap portion of the run. He kind of really slows up a lot, but then fires off afterwards. So if there's going to be a time to pass to the lead, it's probably going to be now.
Manning still leads. Heller's not letting up, though. The 25-11 teammates, the number 11 and the number 1, battling it out for the race lead as Jacob Bransky and Aaron Duclos look on from behind. Heller needs to find the right spot to make his move. He's trying to get the run out of turns 1 and 2, it looked like right there, but was not able to work. How is he going to complete this pass here?
I've noticed more than anything, Manning has been going really, really deep into these corners. That time he way overshot it. Manages to hold on for now, but I thought Heller was going to get underneath him there. He's been going into these corners really, really deep, and that's been hurting his exit speed.
And Manning has not been able to get off the corners quite as well as the drivers behind them, and that could be the advantage for Heller if Heller can maybe time one of these corners perfectly and just drive it off the middle to the exit. He can maybe make the pass on the number 1 machine. It's just so hard to complete that pass on the inside. Maybe he has to try to find a way to get to that high lane.
And I don't know if he's hearing what we're saying right now, but he seemed to have changed his driving style a lot. He started running the corners a lot more equal to the drivers behind. He's now getting pretty equal exit speed. So maybe he's listening into us.
Exit speed is a big key here at Phoenix Raceway. All about that exit speed, especially out of 3 and 4. If you can put the pedal to the metal out of 3 and 4, you got it.
Yeah, more than anything, I find going down into turn 1, if you take that too fast, you murder your center speed and really hurt the tires a lot. It makes it very, very hard to negotiate. So on both ends of the track, going too fast into anything is going to hurt you.
Manning continues to hold on to the lead, but you saw they're battling it out a little bit back there around 5th and 6th. They've been battling it out back there for the last couple of laps. You got Nicholson back there, Madalinas, Austin Moore, Henderson, and Nanny all battling it out back there. There you see Henderson, Elliot Henderson, trying to get past Austin Moore right now. Austin Moore running a very defensive line on that high side. Henderson is not able to quite get to the inside, and Austin Moore is really able to shoot down that back straightaway and just get a lot of straightaway speed.
Yeah, we saw a great move just there, just ahead of him with Madalinas on Nicholson. He made a great pass down into turn 3. Nicholson's not found his way up as far as we typically expect him to be, especially where he was earlier in the race. But Madalinas, remember, he spun around. And he does have a little bit of rear end damage on that race car, but it doesn't seem to be affecting him as badly as we expect. And even still, he slammed the wall earlier. I mean, he was stalled out. But let's not forget, he's actually a lap down after hitting the wall earlier.
And Madalinas a couple of laps down in that number 9 machine after that damage. But I think he's on some fresh tires right now as well in the number 9 machine, making some passes pretty easy. And that number 9 machine had a lot of speed earlier and unfortunately got caught up in one of the incidents we had earlier. You see this battle for the lead continue. Heller's been within 2 car lengths this whole run. He's just right there behind Jacob Manning, waiting for Manning to make a mistake. These guys have separated themselves from Bransky, I'd like to add as well. Bransky's around almost a half second back from these drivers right now.
Yeah, they've gapped them out just a little bit, but we may see that gap close in a second here as Madalenas, who I just brought up, has been running very quick. Those new tires, he's found his way onto the back bumper of Duclos. This lap car could change the battle for the lead here, as he's probably just going to blow right by them, and if the timing is poor enough for some of these drivers, we could see side-by-side battles and maybe even a change for position.
Madalenas is definitely going to mess with things right here in the number 9 machine. As you see his onboard right here. He's right behind Aaron Duclos right now. Here he comes underneath the number 97. And he's going to try to make that pass on him and Jacob Bransky right through the dog leg.
Car really gets unsettled down there in the dog leg, but he inserts himself right in between these two drivers. That's going to hurt Duclos a little bit, but what's going to hurt even more is him pulling inside of Bransky down into turn 3. You don't want to be stuck on the outside down into 3, especially when it's a car that much faster. It just hurts your whole corner.
There you see Madalenas has cleared them, and now he sets his sights on the 2 leaders. Madalenas currently 7 laps down, looking to put himself 6 laps down. Not battling for any position here, but he is taking his effect on the race. And Heller's kept right with Manning. Those last couple laps, Heller was actually a little quicker from Manning. Manning was able to separate himself a little bit, and Heller drove right back up on him in around 2 or 3 laps, and he's right back within 2 car lengths. This is a good race between these 2 teammates, the number 11 and the number 1.
Yeah, and we were questioning whether or not he was going to continue to have that long-run pace like he has earlier in the race, especially with how hard he was battling at the beginning. Doesn't seem to have affected him that poor. He still has some decent long-run pace alongside Heller. So their battling didn't seem to affect them as much as I expected it to.
Yeah, these 2 drivers are running some of the quickest laps on the racetrack, but the quickest lap that last time by was actually 5th place driver Nathan Nicholson, who's kind of in his own little area right now. He's around a 2.5 back of 4th place Aaron Duclos, and he's around 2 seconds in front of Elliott Henderson. He's trying to get up to these drivers. No lap cars in front of him, and he's trying to get up here and try to get as many spots as he can. There you see Nanny. They're battling it out back here, which it looks like to be for around the 8th spot here. Daniel Nanny, Austin Moore, and Elliott Henderson. These drivers have been battling it out for the last 15 or 20 laps here.
Yeah, they've absolutely been going at it around this 6th, 7th, 8th position. These drivers back and forth constantly. So, as you see, Nanny extremely loose coming out of turn 2. Manages to keep the spot, but man, these drivers are relentless, and they're losing a lot of time to everybody else in front of them.
Really strong drivers back here battling it out just outside the top 5. Daniel Nanny has shown his speed here today, but he's faced a lot of problems here today. He's back up here trying to get back into the top 5. He has one of the quicker cars on the racetrack. That last time by, he actually had the quickest lap on the racetrack, Daniel Nanny.
Something I'm checking on as well. Looks like Jacob Manning in the lead's actually gapping Christopher Heller a little bit. He seems to be pulling away now. Seems tires are starting to flip around even better, and that long run pace is really shining as we're almost 30 laps into this run now, the longest run of the day.
From what I was seeing, Manning was able to get a good amount of that gap from, he had a lot cleaner of a, Madalenas had a lot cleaner of a pass on the number 1 than he did on the number 11. Just, it didn't cost the number 1 as much time as it cost the number 11. He was able to gap him just a little bit, but you see Heller has closed it down a little bit in those just from us watching. He's closed it down.
Yeah, every time I say one driver is pulled away, the next lap, somebody else comes right back at him. I mean, these drivers are just running such close and consistent laps for how deep we are into the run. I'm amazed at this driving right now.
These 2 definitely look strong. These 2 are the class of the field right now, the number 1 and the number 11. Bransky's not giving up, though. Bransky was a little quicker than both these drivers that last time by. If someone's going to make this comeback and get up to them, it's going to be Jacob Bransky in the number 23.
Yeah, Bransky, I know him as being very, very strong in these cars. While in this race, he hasn't been as consistent as I typically know him to be. We never know what he's learning lap by lap. I mean, I know even myself, if I'm going to somewhere I haven't run as much or maybe aren't as strong at, just by racing near fast cars, I could find out and start running a lot quicker times to a point where I might even start running faster than him. And maybe that's what Bransky's doing right now, is he's just sitting there learning, waiting to apply it. And we'll see if what he's learning can find him the time he needs to get to pass these two.
Bransky just learning as we go here. Little past halfway, 110 laps into the event here at Phoenix Raceway. Manning continues to lead. Heller is not too far behind in the second spot. You got Jacob Bransky in third, Aaron Duclos in fourth, Nathan Nicholson in fifth. That rounds out your top five. Quickest driver on the racetrack last time by was Manning. Manning's been the quickest guy the last few laps. Here you see Austin Moore and Henderson continue to battle it out. These two have just been battling it out non-stop.
Yeah, and what I find interesting about Austin Moore is that he was up there earlier on in the run. He was inside the top five, fell off a bit, but is now battling back just a little bit. And we'll see what he's been learning, because he was at the back earlier on in the race as well. He was running well outside the top 10 at the start of the race, but has gotten a bit quicker as the race has gone on, finds himself currently in the 7th position, but over 2.5 seconds away from Daniel Nanny ahead.
I know some of these drivers are beginning to think pit stops. I wouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves, though, yet. This has been the longest green flag run, though, so far. I know some of these drivers are beginning to really think green flag pit stops. It's all going to be about strategy if we end up getting to that point. And that might be the difference between winning and losing this race. A bad pit stop or making a great call could be the difference in this race here today.
And for me, you've brought up a very scary phrase right there, green flag pit stops. I've tried multiple times in this car with what these drivers are dealing with setup-wise. It's very, very loose under hard braking while turning. And where is that pit lane entry? Right in the middle of the corner in turn 4. They need to slow down very, very hard going down into one and then turn it down onto the apron to get onto the pit lane entering turn 2. So they're going to really, really struggle down there, and we could see a driver spin out just trying to get onto the pit lane.
You're trying to get onto pit road as fast as you can and make up as much time as you can, and some drivers might get speeding penalties, some drivers might spin out, and we might even see a driver hit those yellow barrels over there, Alex.
Very possible for sure. If you start sliding and lose control of the rear end, it's very easy to go out a little too wide, and essentially Matt Kenseth it at Dover and slam right into the pit barrels.
You see it right here. Manning still leading the field. Him and Heller running very similar lap times. The last few laps, those two have been the quickest drivers on the racetrack by almost a whole tenth. Nicholson's running some pretty decent laps. Nanny's running some pretty decent laps, but everybody else is pretty far off their pace right now.
Yeah, this is the lowest amount of fall off I've seen since we started running the racetrack at the beginning of practice. Throughout all the runs I've seen, normally the drivers fall off almost a full second by the time it's lap 20 to 25, but they're 30, 40 laps into a run, and they're only just now over a second off of their starting time. So they're running a really, really good pace compared to what we saw earlier in the day.
Yeah, a lot calmer of a restart. I think that has to do a lot with it. These restarts have gotten calmer and calmer as we've gone on, and At the beginning of those restarts, if you put a lot of heat in your tires, you're already asking for your tires to get worn down. And that last restart, the last few restarts have been fairly calm for the most part. Drivers have singled out fairly quickly and hasn't been a lot of battling at the beginning portions of the run.
I mean, except for the lead, of course, with that extremely intense battle, which is why it surprises me that they have such a good pace. I mean, they were battling lap after lap after lap. They were side by side, but I guess when they were doing it, they must have still been tire saving at the same time because they just have not fallen off like you expect them to, especially when you are racing like that.
Because I was watching it when the number 11 and the number 1 were battling it. Keep in mind, these drivers are teammates. They were both giving each other plenty of room. The 1 was giving the 11 plenty of room to come out of the corner, and the 11 was giving the 1 plenty of room coming through the dogleg as well. And these drivers were just able to not quite save as much tires as they usually would, but they didn't use them up as much as they usually would in a battle because they are teammates. So they were able to somewhat take it easy on one another. Owen Manning's in the wall. He really overdrove 1 and 2. I do not know what happened there. He just completely overdrove 1 and 2 and hit the wall pretty hard. And now Heller's right on his bumper.
I am absolutely confused what just happened there. I'm actually looking at the onboard. It looks like the car turned off. The ignition went out and he just went straight, lost all power steering and engine braking.
You'd have to think in a situation like that, it's just like a finger slip, maybe push the wrong button by a mistake, but Manning is able to survive, not too much damage on the right side of that machine. At a track like Michigan or Auto Club, he would be in very big trouble with that sort of damage, but at a track like Phoenix Raceway, he should be fine in that number 1 machine as he hangs on to the lead for now. Heller's right in behind him, pushing very hard. Heller got pretty loose out of 3 and 4 that time.
Well, that's going to help Heller out a ton because that gave Jacob Manning some damage up against the wall. And while we've seen these cars not as affected by damage ever since the update, they still take a little bit of damage and slow down a bit, especially since he slid way up in the corner, which ought to hurt the tires a little bit as well.
Definitely a very close call for race leader Jacob Manning, but he continues to hold on to the lead for now. But Heller is now right there. He is all over his bumper. This is the closest he's been to Manning since the beginning portion of the run.
I mean, he hasn't lost the spot yet, so he's still managing to run very well, but the gap right there is absolutely detrimental for Jacob Manning. I mean, you have to think about the mental part of it too. For the car to shut off and then run into the wall after you were leading the race so dominantly, only to have the driver you were running away from right back on your bumper again, that wears down on you mentally. A mistake you made has now got the driver you were running away from right back into it, and he's probably running harder than he might want to right now.
Around 2 laps ago, I was hearing it on the radio, and I looked back. It sounded like, and I looked back at it, Nicholson and Madalenas had pretty heavy contact on the backstretch around 2 laps ago, and Nicholson almost spun it. A phenomenal save, was completely sideways down the back straightaway, and Andy got around him, and there was a little bit of a discussion on the radio about it, and Nicholson has lost the spot to Daniel Nanny because of it. He's now in the 6th position in the number 51 machine. Nicholson now trying to get that spot back. He's not too far behind Nanny. He wants to get up there. But the battle for the lead is beginning to heat up just a little bit more here.
Yeah, and think about how that's going to affect them when they go and take new tires, as we're likely nearing that green flag pit stop. These drivers have been out there for over 50 laps now. That green flag pit stop has to be coming soon. When they're on new tires, that damage will definitely affect you a lot more than in the back end of these runs. So you're going to be going a lot faster through those corners.
You have to think about how far are these drivers going to go. I don't know exactly when the pit window is here today, but they're looking to possibly split this last run in half because they're around almost 55 laps into this run, and we have just over 70 laps to go. If these drivers can go another 10, 11 laps, they can make it to the finish on one more stop.
However, if they have to come in a little bit earlier than that and they can't make it all the way, that last pit stop, if this goes green, could be crucial to see who has the faster stop, who has as little fuel in it as possible. Maybe you don't even take tires. Maybe you just barely take enough fuel to make it to the end and have only a 2-3 second pit stop and try and just win the race off that gap.
We definitely see big strategy come into play if that would happen. This battle for the lead continues as they're getting past the lap car of Brandon Barkuski on the inside right here. Just over 70 laps to go here at Phoenix Raceway. Manning continues to lead. He's gapped Heller a little bit the last few laps, but Heller is still right there within his reach. He hasn't really been he's been within a half second pretty much the whole time here. They've been fluctuating in and out.
Yeah, looking at the times for Jacob Manning just before and after he hit the wall, he was running pretty consistently about a tenth faster than Heller every lap. Right after he hit the wall, however, he lost essentially a full tenth, and ever since has been running very similar times to Heller now. So that damage is essentially 1/10 of damage is what we're looking at on Jacob Manning's car.
Manning doing a very good job just to hang on to the lead right now. Just under 70 laps to go. Heller right there. Bransky has separated himself from Duclos a good amount. Duclos has fallen back a good amount. Nanny and Nicholson are beginning to drive down Duclos and Bransky, as both of those drivers are off the pace when it comes to the other drivers in the top six right now. The top six are a lot quicker than the rest of the field right now.
Yeah, I'm surprised that their pace fell off so much here at the back end because they were running pretty consistently with the leaders. I wonder if it's just a difference in style, maybe putting a little bit more wear on the tires in the corners, taking them a little bit quicker to run the same times. And now it's starting to bite them in the back end of the run.
And Duclos is continuing to fall back. Nanny has a lot of speed here at the end of this run. The last couple of laps, Nanny's been the fastest driver on the racetrack in the number 45 machine as he's trying to catch up to Aaron Duclos and snag another spot. He was up in fourth position a little earlier on in the race, and he got into the wall and fell back to sixth. He's then moved himself back into the fifth spot, and now he's trying to get back up into fourth. He's shown a lot of speed here today. Daniel Nanny has been driving his way through the field throughout the day.
Yeah, for those of you who may not have been with us at the beginning of the broadcast, when I mentioned Daniel Nanny, in practice, he had one of the best long-run paces compared to the other drivers, or at least from what we saw in the 20 to 25 lap runs. And he hadn't really had it for most of the day, but we're starting to see it once again here. Later on in the race, maybe he's figuring out something different to try here for these runs that are much, much longer than those 20 laps that they had in practice.
Well, whatever he figured out, it's working, and he needs to continue what he's doing. And I'm hearing some pit stops are beginning to start. I'm hearing Elliot Henderson is coming down pit road this time by. They're right there. They're right on the line of the pit window at this point. Can they make it to the finish? If they pit right now, it'd be very, very close.
I'm watching the leaders because it sounds like Bransky and Duclos are going to be coming into the pit lane. There goes Bransky into the pit lane. Looked a little quick, but I think he still managed to do it. Duclos does stay out on track, however. We may see him the next lap. But yeah, these guys are right on the line for the pit window as looking back at the leaders, battle for the lead. Christopher Heller is inside Manning as drivers are coming to pit stops. That could be disaster for Manning.
And Heller slides up and he gets Manning in the door. More contact between 25-11 drivers, and Manning takes that as a sign to go down pit lane. I think that's a very, very smart move from Manning as long as he got underneath the pace speed there.
I think he was just trying to pit anyways that lap, but Christopher Heller took it to the inside on the same lap he was planning to pit. So that definitely hurt him as we hear now Christopher Heller's coming into the pit lane. So far, it looks like every other driver has now come in to make their pit stop. Christopher Heller is going to be one of the last ones. This is going to be the difference maker. He slowed Jacob Manning a lot on the pit entry. Watching Heller, he seems to have a really, really good entry into the pit lane. He might find a pretty big gap on Manning coming out.
I'm interested to see where everybody pops out at. Manning just now leaving his pit box. He's leaving pit road right now. Can he get back out and get in front of Heller? It's going to be very close for him. And Manning looks like he might get passed by Bransky on the track. Bransky has a pretty big run, but he's not quite able to get to him.
I think that just goes to show how much Manning lost on that pit entry, is that now Bransky, on top of the extra time he had on the newer tires 1 lap earlier, is this close to him. Now, as we come out of the pit lane, Manning crosses
the pit road.
Yeah, Heller lost out a lot. I guess he must have had a slow stop or a slow pit box entry, as he's passed by even Duclos and Nanny. He's all the way back to the 7th position.
He didn't cut the corner, it looked like. Alex, he did not cut the corner on pit road like I mentioned earlier with Nick Martin. He was all the way up against the wall, and that lost him a good amount of time.
Once again, that seemingly realistic style of running around just bites him here on iRacing, where you can run right up against that inside wall if you want to. And here at Phoenix, that curved pit lane, it makes a massive difference, especially with how wide the pit lane is. So Manning capitalizes on that. Bransky capitalizes on that, while other drivers lost a lot.
Yeah, Heller sure did lose a lot. He's more than 2 seconds now behind Jacob Manning. And now Bransky is sitting in Heller's position. We saw Heller make a little bit of contact with Manning before pit stop started, and he's his teammate. I don't think Bransky is going to be as nice. Oh, and Heller's in the wall. Heller got into the wall off turns 1 and 2 in front of Daniel Nanny. He's able to keep it straight for now, but Nanny's now underneath him.
It's the race falling apart here for Christopher Heller. A missed green flag pit stop on what could be the last green flag stop. These drivers should be able to make it to the end on the fuel that they have, but he's 2.5 seconds off the lead right now. He may have lost this race in the pit lane.
And I mentioned it earlier, Alex, that might be the deciding factor on the race. Strategy in pit road. One little mistake could cost you everything. He did not cut the corner, and it cost him just a little bit of time. And also, Manning did pit 1 lap earlier, so he had those fresher tires for an extra lap than he did. So that was even a little bit more time. Now Heller has to try to fight back, as he's 2 seconds back of Jacob Manning. And right now, his best friend is Jacob Bransky. If Bransky can put the battle to Manning, Heller can get back up there and make this a 3-way battle for this win.
My only problem right now is I'm looking at the lap times. Heller is running almost qualifying level lap times. He's running extremely hard and extremely quick right now. While that will pay off for him right at the beginning of this run, I feel like that's going to bite him for what we may see be a full 65 lap run to the finish.
I think Heller is going to make this comeback. I don't know how he's necessarily going to do on the long run, but just the way I'm looking at this right now, I'm watching the way Manning is driving. And the way Manning was driving when Heller was behind him, he drove completely different. He drove a lot more relaxed. But with Bransky driving behind him, he's driving a completely different line right now. He's driving very defensive, and he's also on those fresh tires. He's having to fight very hard to hang on to that race lead.
The one thing that we are seeing right now at the moment that hasn't really been brought up is that Jacob Bransky also has damage, like we see on Jacob Manning from earlier in the race. Bransky has some rear end damage on the race car. That could be slowing him down a little bit, while Manning has some right front damage. Really, there's not many cars inside this top 5 with no damage on them, and all the cars out front right now have at least a little bit somewhere.
Bransky is putting a lot of pressure on Manning. He really sent it into 1 and 2, almost got into the bumper, it looked like, of Manning. Very close racing between the Jacobs here. Jacob Manning, Jacob Bransky. Bransky continues to put the pressure on. He's right there within 1 car length of Manning. Can he make the move?
I imagine he probably should be able to make the move, because at the beginning of the run last time, Bransky was able to keep up with them, and that was before both Heller and Manning had damage. Now that they do have damage, you'd think he'd be able to run up and pass them, but it's just not seeming like that right now. He just doesn't have the pace at the moment, and just under 1 second behind them is Christopher Heller, who's been running some blazing lap times trying to catch back up.
And that last time around, Heller was 4/10 quicker than your race leaders, and they just passed the line that time by. He was 3/10 quicker than the race leaders. Heller is driving a blistering pace right now. He's only 6/10 behind the race leader. A few laps ago, he was 2 whole seconds behind the race leader. Can he get up there to Bransky and Manning and take away this win?
Kind of runs it a little bit wide down there into turn 3. I'm currently looking at his cockpit camera to see what he's doing with the steering wheel, see if he's turning a little bit more than the drivers ahead. Reason to believe he probably is because of how quickly he's running. The one driver I'm seeing turn the least is Manning out there in the lead. He seems to be using a bit more brake, as just ahead of him we saw Bransky get into the wall.
Bransky looked like he gave that car a little Phoenix stripe, not quite a Darlington stripe, but a little Phoenix stripe on the side, not too heavy contact for Bransky, able to keep his speed up for the most part and stick with Manning, so good job from Bransky. But we've seen a lot of drivers get that wall off turns 1 and 2. It's been a trouble spot all day, Alex. I've seen almost every driver in this field hit that wall at least one time.
And you know, Kyle, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm pretty sure I saw Heller shut the car off down into turn 1. His RPM was stuck at 2,000. I don't know if he clutched it or shut the car off, but he's not running any engine braking down in that corner. He might be saving fuel.
Has to be a curious call. Like I said earlier, we're not 100% sure on the pit window here for tonight, but with the way those drivers had pitted on underneath those green flag conditions, they made it around 60 to 65 laps. And when they made those pit stops, there was around 65 laps remaining. So you'd have to think in that sort of position that Christopher Heller is saving that gas just to make sure he can make it to the finish, or if there's a green-white checkered attempt, if he decides to stay out.
Well, I think if we make it to that point and cautions come out for a green-white checkered, you're going to have to pit. These drivers are going to be over a second to lap time off their initial pace, as now Christopher Heller goes underneath Jacob Bransky. He's been a lot quicker the last few laps. Will he be able to make the pass, and how aggressive is he going to be with it? Looks like Bransky went down into 1 really deep and will get the run off for 2.
I feel like if you're Christopher Heller in this, and he smacks the wall again. He smacks the wall off turns 1 and 2 once again, very hard. Not very much damage, though, to the number 11 machine. But as I was saying, I feel like if you're in Heller's shoes at this moment, I feel like you have to be very aggressive with Jacob Bransky. Bransky is a phenomenal driver, and we've seen how strong Manning is here today. If you battle with Bransky for too long, Manning might be gone at that point. You might not be able to catch him at that point in the race.
You know what I'm curious about is these lap times have been way higher than I expect them to be for how short into the run they are. They're only 20 laps in, and they're already 7, 8 tenths off their pace right at the beginning. They might be running way harder than they were on the previous run, even though we see Heller trying to save fuel. These drivers are going very, very fast. It might bite them, and some drivers behind could catch up.
I think the pace of the race is just completely picked up. Everybody knows this is possibly the last green flag run of the day. No more pit stops possibly. So these drivers are pushing it very hard up here at the front. As you see the onboard of Jacob Bransky as he looks back at Christopher Heller. Heller continues to put that pressure on the number 23. All 3 of these drivers have moved up a racing line, I'd like to note as well. They've moved up a line in turns 1 and 2 to that middle line.
Yeah, and that's crucial as well, because as I brought up earlier in the race, that line wears a lot more tire. You're carrying a lot more speed, and as we're looking at this onboard, look at who's starting to catch up to them. My pick at the start of the race, Daniel Nanny, has been running slightly quicker lap times the last few laps. That time he was a little bit slower, but he has nothing to worry about. He can run consistent, careful lap times and just wait for these guys to fall off at the end. He's also saving fuel.
Daniel Nanny, in a weird way, could be in the catbird seat here. If these three drivers start battling it out, we've seen how fast Daniel Nanny is on the longer runs. Daniel Nanny and Manning have been the class of the field on these longer runs. You see Heller and Bransky battling it out right now. If they continue to battle it, oh, and there's contact. Look like, oh man, that was close. Great save from Heller. But if they continue to battle out like that,
oh, Heller's loose. Really loose into that corner. He barely kept it out of Bransky going into 3.
Oh, man. This is craziness right here. If these drivers continue to battle it out like this, Nanny's going to have the advantage at the end of this run. We saw how quick he was at the end of that last run. Nanny has so much speed. What can he do with it now that he's up at the front?
Well, he's got 40 laps to do it. We'll see if my pick can manage to win this race. It's looking really good right now as all 3 drivers ahead of him have some pretty significant damage one way or another, while he is very, very minimal on the right front. As just we're checking in, Nicholson's on pit road. He was in the 5th spot.
You'd have to think that Nicholson had made the decision that he was not going to make it on fuel, or at this point he might be short pitting and just trying to split the run in half and get 4 fresh tires and seeing if he can do something that way, because there was no chance he was going to win the race on the other strategy unless a caution came out. So he's going to have to make this for himself as he goes a lap down. Manning is passing him on the racetrack right now.
What I'm doing right now is I'm checking in on every single in-car cam of all these drivers inside the top 4 to see who's saving fuel, what they're doing into each corner. The only driver consistently clutching it or shutting the car off to try and save a little bit of fuel has been Heller. I've noticed Nanny doing it a couple times, but the 2 leaders have not been doing it at all. Either they're confident they're going to make it, or they're not aware of just how close the fuel's going to be.
You'd have to think if Nanny and Heller weren't confident. Heller was one of the last, if not the last driver that came down pit road under the green flag cycle. Bransky came in 2 laps before Heller, so you'd have to think if Heller might be short, that Bransky has to be short in that number 23 machine.
That's what you would figure. Bransky was the first one of these 3 down onto the pit lane. I could understand Manning maybe still making it. He came in a lap after. But if Heller's not even confident being the last of these 3 to come in, I'm not sure if any of them can make it.
It's definitely going to be something to watch out for. And a driver like Nathan Nicholson might be getting ahead of the curve in that sort of situation. If all these drivers end up having to come down, getting a splash of fuel or this or that, Nicholson just came down pit road and got fresh tires. So he's running the quickest laps on the racetrack right now. He's making up at least 1 second every single lap right now. So he would be in a very prime position if these drivers cannot make it to the finish. And I think that's also what was going through Nicholson's mind when he came down pit road. That these other drivers might not make it to the finish as well. Maybe I just come down pit road and get these tires and fuel now and set myself up for the finish.
Something you can't count out, though, is that any driver who does come into the pit lane will lose a full lap. Phoenix Raceway is not a very large racetrack. You, without fail, lose at least a full lap coming down the pit lane to get tires. So anytime you take that risk, there's always the chance of the caution coming out and trapping you a lap down.
This is not the time of the race to be trapped a lap down. Just over 30 laps to go in race number 2 of the season in the Great Lakes Premier Series. Manning continues to lead. He's put on a great race here today in the first half of the race. We saw him drive through the field and show his long run speed. And ever since he's taken the lead, he hasn't really looked back. Bransky and Heller have continued to put that pressure on him.
Yeah, that pressure has been very, very consistent, too. It could be why Manning has been constantly running as hard as he has been. I mean, I don't think I've seen him run as hard except for the beginning of the first run, but this time he does have damage from hitting the wall. Who knows what that's doing to his car? It could make him tighter, which is often what I see happens when you get right front damage. It may be he's running the corners a little bit too hard and returning the wheel a little bit too much. Oh my gosh, the lap car of Phil Bedford, both Bransky and Heller almost get into him there as he checks up going into turn 1.
Bedford's really slow around the racetrack. He kept it up against the wall out of the driver's way. I don't know if they were aware that they were approaching him. There was no discussion on the radio or anything. Bedford is now pulled down to pit road as you see the onboard of Bransky as he looks back at Heller. Heller's really been putting the pressure on Bransky these last few laps. I said it before and I'll say it again. If Heller wants to get past Bransky, I think he's going to need to get aggressive with him.
Problem is, it's just ahead of him because of that incident with the lap car. Jacob Manning just pulled out 3/10 that last time by, and that's going to hurt them a lot as Bransky was right there giving a lot more pressure to Jacob Manning, but now that Manning's a little more free to run what line he wants, he might end up finding himself running a little bit quicker than he was.
Manning is your race leader. Jacob Bransky currently running in the second spot. You have Chris Heller in third, Daniel Nanny in fourth, and Aaron Duclos rounds out your current top 5. Duclos has been very quiet back there, like I mentioned earlier, not really near anybody right now. Same thing with Nanny. They're kind of both in their own little space right now in the 4th and 5th position. Here you see Daniel Nanny in the 45 machine. He's been putting down some strong laps, especially on the longer runs here today. There's Aaron Duclos in the 97 coming across the line in the 5th spot. Just a very consistent day for Duclos. And Austin Moore running well as well in the number 91.
And what I would say is probably the shock of the race so far, Elliott Henderson down in 7th place right now. Hasn't really gotten into too many issues today, just hasn't had the pace that you would expect out of Elliott. And then as we're going through the order here, we're just seeing drivers who have either gotten into incidents and are trying to recover, or drivers who just haven't found the magic they need for the day today.
And Zach Henry had a really good run going earlier and after contact with his teammate Jacob Manning. Very severe damage to his bumper. There's no damage to his bumper because there is no bumper. Bumper's gone. Oh, and there's contact! The 42, and it looks like the 54. Heavy contact on the back straightaway. No caution as they keep it straight, but Cole Bradley and look like Nick Martin make very heavy contact to the backstretch wall.
It looked like Cole Bradley might have turned left down into Nick Martin coming down the back straightaway, hooked him right. Somehow Nick Martin didn't go around and both drivers straightened it out and kept going. But that's going to essentially end their races.
It looked like Bradley just got completely sideways off the corner from my look at it. He just got completely sideways off the corner and just hooked right into Martin, and just nothing either of them could have done. Bradley tried to save it as best he can, and Martin got caught up in the mess of it. We have a battle for the second spot, it looks like. Heller making that move on Bransky. He's trying to make that pass. He needs to make this pass quick before Manning possibly gets away. There's just over 20 laps to go here at Phoenix.
Of these three, Heller and Manning have been the two quickest. Bransky slowed down a lot at the back end of this run, and Heller needs to get by him because he's running out of time. There's less than 25 laps to go at this point now, and he's just going to run out of time if he can't get by Bransky quick enough.
Heller's going to need to make that move right now if he wants to have a shot at this victory. Manning continues to drive away, almost a half a second now in front of Bransky and Heller. Heller heckling the number 23 of Jacob Bransky as Manning continues to pull away. Manning is now 6/10 out in front.
And Heller's just not finding what he needs at the moment to be able to get by him. But I'm looking at a driver right behind him. Looks like Cole Bradley came down into the pit lane. Might have new tires because he's catching up to these leaders very quickly and could possibly interrupt them a lot, though he is missing a lot of straight line speed, and that could really make things confusing for these leaders.
This might get a little crazy here. Here comes Cole Bradley on those fresh tires with Heller and Bransky kind of battling right in front of him. What does Bradley do? Where does he go? Does he go to the inside? He go to the high side? He's going to be able to get to these drivers soon. It's taking him a minute to get there because of that straightaway speed, like you mentioned, Alex. You just see him fall back just a little bit from Heller on the straightaway right there on the onboard.
Who this is going to hurt the most as Bransky gets a little loose out of turn 4, allows Heller to get inside. Who it's going to help the most is Jacob Manning out there in front. These drivers are going to battle as Heller just straight up clears Bransky in the center of 3 and 4. He tries to see if he can cross him over. It just doesn't get enough of a run out of turn 2. Heller finds himself down to the second spot with just 20 laps to go this time by.
Christopher Heller, the Season 2 champion, has 20 laps to drive down his teammate, Jacob Manning. And do they have enough fuel to make it to the finish?
You would have to hope that they do, because if they don't, then who is going to be the driver who makes it? We saw Heller saving a little bit at the beginning of the run. If any of these three are going to make it, it's going to be Heller. And if any of these three are not going to make it, it's going to be Bransky, who pit with exactly 65 laps to go.
Bransky hanging out in the third spot. Heller beginning to drive away a little bit from him in the second spot. Heller caught up to Manning a little over a tenth that last time by. He's now only 6/10 behind his teammate, Jacob Manning. Can he complete the comeback?
Yeah, Manning has just been a little bit inconsistent with the lap times. He's been able to run as quick as Heller, but just not on a consistent enough basis to be able to stay out front. But Heller that time wasn't that much faster. Less than a tenth. He needs to run quicker than that if he wants to get by him with so few laps left in the race.
One thing I'm really curious about, do we make it to the end of this race without another caution? Does something happen here at the end of this race? The end of these races tend to get a little bit crazy. Will we see another caution, or will it be green and clean the rest of the way?
I see no reason for a caution to come out here. We had a big scare there for a little bit between Cole Bradley and Nick Martin. Ultimately didn't end up with any caution, and behind these leaders, Cole Bradley just doesn't look like he has enough pace down the straight line to be able to run down these leaders. He's able to get to their bumper, but just not able to make any moves. So I don't think we'll see any lap car interfere with this battle. But Christopher Heller, the last couple laps, has caught up a lot to Jacob Manning. 15 laps when they come around turn 4 this time.
Heller is right there. You can just smell the lead right now. He's catching up around a tenth a lap. He's around 4/10 back right now. Nathan Nicholson's been really driving these drivers down, though. He was around 1.5, 1 3/4 laps back. He's about to unlap himself probably here in a couple laps. If these drivers cannot make it to the finish, like I mentioned earlier, Nicholson might be in the prime position to get a win here tonight.
Yeah, but that relies on them running out of fuel, and I think with how tight it's going to be, they might just about make it. Call may not be what Nicholson might have been hoping for, but what he can at least do is influence who might end up winning this race, because he's got enough pace to run up next to these leaders, run them down, and cause a bit of calamity.
We'll have to see. Just over 10 laps to go. Coming to 13 laps to go this time by. Here comes Nicholson on the high side. And Bransky's coming down pit road. I don't know if Bransky thought he could make it. Bransky's coming down pit road in the number 23 machine, our third place driver, and that will hand third place off to Daniel Nanny.
This changes everything, Kyle. Bransky coming down pit lane, pit with exactly 65 laps. Manning 1 lap later than Bransky. Is that 1 lap the difference, or has he pit too early as well?
Here comes more down pit road as well. But yeah, the focus is definitely shifted to the 11 and the 1 when it comes to fuel strategy. Can these drivers make it the rest of the way? Bransky came down pit road 1 lap before the number 1 of Manning, and he came down pit road 2 laps before the number 11 of Heller. Heller is in the better position out of these two, but do they make it to the finish? And that third guy right in behind him might be a lap down, Nathan Nicholson, but he's currently in the 8th position, and he's the first driver that can make it to the finish for sure.
Yeah, if this ends up being a fuel race where everybody runs out, Nicholson could somehow find his way into victory lane after all the troubles that he's had tonight. Because I'm currently going through all the orders. The latest driver to pit was Christopher Heller, coming from lap 38 to 39. So he's got 1 extra lap of fuel over everybody else who hasn't pit yet. If Heller has to pit, then nobody's going to make it.
We're going to have to see now 10 laps to go. 10 laps to go. Nicholson has gotten past Heller, and now he sets his sights on Manning to at least get himself back on the lead lap, because if a caution would to come out, he would be on the lead lap as he almost spins it off 1 and 2. Great save from the 51. He is pushing that car awfully hard right now. Henderson's coming down pit road from the 5th spot. He cannot make it to the finish as well.
I believe he pit the same lap as Bransky as well, so the two of them pitting lap 135, they're not able to make it. But will these drivers who pit 136, 137, and then Heller on 138, can they make it to the finish?
Henderson had actually came down pit road the same lap as Manning and Nanny, so if Henderson's not confident, Manning pit on the same lap as he did, so it's going to be awfully close for him.
It could get very close indeed, and we'll have to see if they are able to.
Couple of laps remaining here. Manning leading the field in the number 1 machine. Jacob Manning leads. Heller right in behind him.
And as much as we're talking about fuel here, we can't forget about the pace as well. Heller lost a lot letting Nicholson by, but now that they're clear of any lap car, Heller started to run down Manning again, and I have reason to believe that if Manning has to try and save a little bit of fuel to make it to the finish, then Heller might be able to go a lot further than him and run a little bit harder because of that extra lap that he saved.
6 laps remaining here at Phoenix. Do Manning and Heller have enough fuel to make it to the finish? Here comes Bransky right in behind them as well. Does Bransky have enough time to possibly get to Nicholson? Five laps to go here. Manning and Heller. Nanny's not too far behind these drivers as well, and Aaron Duclos. Which one of these drivers can make it to the finish? The driver I would like to note that did stay out the longest from what I'm seeing here is Zachary Henry was the last driver out of the top 5 to make a pit stop.
Unfortunately enough for him, he is on the lead lap, so if these drivers have to pit him, he'll easily be able to find his way into the lead. He shouldn't have to battle with any lap cars unlapping themselves or with anybody who did pit. Maybe these drivers who were clutching in the back, trying to save some extra fuel, not worrying about their pace, they might be able to make it because they may be the only drivers who saved enough to make it.
This is going to be very close for our leaders as they're coming to 3 laps to go. Neither of them have jumped down pit road, so they must be really going in with this strategy at this point. They're either going to make it to the finish or they're going to run out trying to make it to it at this point. Manning leads the field. Heller, oh, Manning's going to come down pit road. Jacob Manning is coming down pit road. Race leader cannot make it to the finish. Christopher Heller now takes the lead.
Heller did pit 2 laps later, though. He pit 2 laps later. Can Heller make it? He saved a little bit of fuel early on. He was clutching just a little bit. Heller may be able to make it.
It's going to be very close for Chris Heller. Can he make it to the finish and snag the victory, snag his first win of season number 4?
We need to be looking at the onboard to see if he's saving any more fuel. How much is he lifting? Is he doing any more fuel saving, or is he just running laps? He didn't clutch it that time by. He's just running laps. Maybe he's confident he can make it. He was clutching earlier while he had the pace. Now that he doesn't, I think maybe he saved enough fuel as we're on the last lap.
Last lap for Chris Heller. Can he make it around? He has a half a lap to go. Nanny's around 2.5 seconds back. Can he make it? He is on fumes at this point. Christopher Heller coming around turns 3 and 4. Your season 2 champion is going to win today at Phoenix. Wow.
Christopher Heller knew the fuel numbers perfectly. Finds himself in victory lane after a perfectly timed pit stop and a perfect amount of fuel saving around this 1 mile long racetrack to find himself in victory lane here tonight.
There was a little gas in that race car to get back around one more time to get back to the front straightaway and the start finish line over here in the dog leg. He's going to go celebrate 2511 driver Christopher Heller, able to get the job done. 2511 guys are up near the front most of the day, and a lot of them ended up having their issues. Manning was running out of gas there at the end. Henry spun out earlier, but Heller was able to take the checkered flag home for the 2511 bunch, and he is a winner on season number 4 of the Great Lakes Premier Series here at Phoenix Raceway. What a race.
Yeah, and more so, he saved enough fuel to be able to celebrate as well. So he not only timed it perfectly, but timed it with well enough left in the tank to be doing these burnouts.
Great job from Chris Heller. And Nicholson was able to drive back for a top 5 after making that early pit stop, really buying into the strategy that no one was going to make it on fuel, and was able to snag a top 5. Those top 4 guys all made it on fuel. Nicholson was the first guy that made that pit stop under green at the end and came home 5th. So good job for Nicholson. I'll try to get you some interviews here in a moment. Alex, what'd you think of that? What'd you think of that finish there?
I mean, I thought that was phenomenal. It was almost a Pocono-esque finish, but we're experiencing a finish like that here at this 1 mile long racetrack. Those 200 laps ended up creating calamity for some of these drivers, just barely running out of fuel there at the end. 3 laps to go for Jacob Banning. An absolute heartbreak for him after what was a phenomenal run today.
Yeah, Manning had just a phenomenal run. One of the best runs I've seen out of him. He's put on some good shows, but just wasn't quite able to get the job done today as he was running out of gas. Came home 7th. Austin Moore in that 8th spot you see down there. Bransky came home 6th. Henderson there as well. Richard Tucker. Good job from Richard Tucker. Able to snag a top 10. Nick Martin back here. He had his issues. Barkuski, Cole Bradley, Phil Bedford, Madalinas, Williams, Brittle, Aiken, and Lawson. Some very strong cars on this second slide here, Alex, that could have honestly been in victory lane. RJ Williams, Bedford, Barkuski, and Aiken are included in that. These drivers could have been competing for the win here today, and they exited very early with some pretty significant damage.
Yeah, damage was also a big problem today, more so than I expected it to be here at this racetrack. We saw pretty much everybody at the front of the field with damage. I could probably count on half of a hand how many cars were in this race with no damage on their cars. It was very much a survival race that ended up turning into a fuel race all at the same time. This is racing at its best. NASCAR racing, endurance racing, all at its best right here.
Yeah, it's a driver's track, and you saw it there, especially in the second half of this race. Drivers trying to save tires, and some drivers trying to save fuel to get to the finish, and Christopher Heller ended up on top. Alex, I think you might be down there with one of our drivers, possibly.
Yeah, we're going to be looking first up. We're going to be pulling in third place finisher here, Aaron Duclos. Congratulations there in the third place finish. It was a fueler tonight. People barely making it. Tell us about your fuel situation there at the end.
Yeah, so after the last pit stop, I saw I was going to be like maybe a gallon short. So I was clutching in turn 1 and turn 3 pretty much like the last 3/4 of the last run. And then once I saw I was good, I took off again. But by then I was maybe 12 seconds behind Heller. And I figured since he pitted a lap after me, he was good to go. So it was definitely a fuel mileage race at the end.
Yeah, were you expecting it to be a fuel mileage race? I mean, at the beginning, there was a lot of cautions that happened, took out a lot of cars, and we were kind of expecting it to turn more into a bit of a brawler, but eventually we got a massive green flag run.
Yeah, based on the first, 10 laps or so where we didn't finish a green flag lap, I thought it was going to be a caution fest, but we got those out of our system early, and then it was, like you said, a massive green flag run after that, which I really enjoyed. That's a lot of fun for us to do, so I was happy to see that.
Now, I mentioned just before we brought you in here, I could count on half a hand how many cars had no damage, and your car was one of them. A nice, clean race car to get to the finish. Everybody else with some damage. What was the key to keeping the car clean today?
For me, I was a slow qualifier, so I was kind of starting in the back so I could kind of avoid trouble. Because it seemed like they were wrecking, in the top 5 or 10 in the beginning, and I was, 17th or 18th to start the race. So I was staying in the back and staying out of trouble.
Yeah, that was something I was about to ask you about as well, because early on at the first run of the race, you were towards the back, not really making any progress at first, but when we had that first pit stop, you suddenly shot out like a cannon. We're racing just around the top 5 pretty much the entire time. Was it something you learned, or was it purely just being conservative in that first run?
I think it was being conservative because I could tell a lot of guys had damage, but I started saving tires towards the end of the first run and kind of figured that out. So I was able to have, decent tire wear at the end of each run, whereas I think other guys were kind of burning their stuff up a little bit. So I was learning how to conserve in that first fuel run.
All right. Well, before we let you go here, we want to give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and thank whoever else you need to today. So who is that?
I don't have any sponsors, but I'd like to thank Daniel, who is my Defiance teammate, and he finished second tonight. So we were kind of, talking strategy throughout the race and kind of decided to save fuel together. So I'd like to thank Daniel as someone to bounce ideas off of.
All right. Well, you guys had a phenomenal race tonight. Congratulations on the third position. It was a tough one tonight.
Yes, but I'm happy to get third in the Premier Series. I haven't raced a lot in the Premier Series in the past, so it feels pretty good. And last week I was leading at Daytona on the last lap on the backstretch, so it's been a good start for me to this season. So I'm enjoying that.
All right. Well, congrats again, and thank you for coming in and talk to us.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, and then we're going to pull in my personal pick for tonight. Didn't manage to get the win, but still managed to get a second place finishing position. Daniel Nanny, my pick for the race. Didn't get it done, but you were pretty strong tonight.
Well, I don't know what happened, but the fact that I finished second place is honestly surprising to me. I was expecting to not run up towards the front. I mean, I wasn't really battling for the lead, but saving fuel really paid out for me.
Yeah, I asked this to Aaron Duclos earlier. What was your fuel situation there towards the end of the race? How close and tight you were? Because you were actually running down Heller at the end, so what time were you comfortable on fuel?
Well, I was saving fuel the entire run. I know that Heller, he was doing something completely different than I was, so for me, fuel-wise, when we passed the start-finish line for the final time, I only had a half a lap of fuel, so that was really, really close. If it was only one more lap, I would not make it to the end.
Fuel was definitely the question for tonight. So was damage a little bit. You were one of the cleaner cars for tonight. I asked Duclos what his strategy was, but what was your strategy for keeping the car clean tonight?
Well, my strategy was just to survive, honestly. I mean, it's a 1-mile track at Phoenix. It's good. It's a good chance there would have been a lot of caution, but the fact that the race went green for like, I don't know how many laps at the end, I think in over 100 laps. It was surprising, and I had to change my strategy from survivor to fuel saving.
Yeah, that definitely ended up becoming the strategy here at the end of the race, but the strategy paid off for you. You came away with a second place finish. Do you have people to thank for that? Sponsors, friends, family, what have you?
Well, I have to give special thanks to everybody in the race for keeping it green at the end, because I was really nervous that untiming caution would come out or something. Well, I gotta give a special thanks to you guys for broadcasting this lead and everything, and I have to give a special thanks to my teammate who finished in third place.
Thanks all around for teammates back and forth. Congratulations on the second place there, Daniel Nanny. You had a good one. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, and we can't forget to bring in our winner for tonight's race, Christopher Heller, winner of tonight, one of the strongest pacing cars of the entire field tonight, and clearly the winner on fuel strategy at the end. All of your competitors ran out at the finish. What was the key to making it to the end on fuel?
Well, kind of at the beginning of that final run there, I just started clutching as soon as I was getting out of the dog leg, and I was just kind of coasting it till entry, and then I'd get back. I'd unclutch and brake, and I just kept doing that. I did that probably about 20, 30 times throughout that run, and then finally towards the end, once I realized that I was kind of good, I was like, all right, I'm going to go and see how far I can take this, and sure enough, I had enough to run Manning out of fuel and run Bransky out of fuel. So that that definitely helped me out.
Yeah, and one thing I'm interested about as well is going on to that final pit stop. You were the latest pitter of the entire field. What do you think the key to that was? And did you think that that was the game changer for you to be able to win this race?
I think that definitely helped. That last run too, I was kind of saving, but I wasn't saving like I was the final run, right? Like I was trying to be a little bit more smooth with my inputs throughout the run before the green flag pit stops, and it just allowed me to just get that one extra lap, and I was able to come in. I had about 0.3 left in the tank when I hit my box, so I just had enough to get to my box. So it ended up working out.
Now, one other thing before we go on to the thank yous, I'm curious about how it was to set pace here today. What did you have to do to be fast? Because while I was doing some practice in this car, this was a tricky one. It was definitely loose for these drivers today.
See, like I like loose setups, so to me, at the beginning of the runs, like a lot of people thought it was loose. For me, it was exactly how I like the race car to feel. I didn't actually make the setup. Elliott made the setup, and it just fit me better than it fit probably most of the drivers. Like Manning liked the setup. Like a lot of people told me that they liked the setup. So, I mean, RJ was fast, Phil was fast until they tangled up early on in the race. I feel like those two are probably the ones to beat. And then it was like me and Manning afterwards. But I feel like if Manning had enough fuel, he would have been able to hold me off and win the race.
Yeah, teammates, they're all at the front of the field, 25-11. Definitely had a strong day today. I imagine, is that one of the people you're here to thank tonight? Because it's thanking time.
Yeah, Jacob Manning put up one hell of a fight. And Nick Martin, I was pretty proud of him for putting in probably over 200 laps of practice, and he qualified well. And unfortunately, his night didn't go the way that he probably planned. Brandon kind of got tangled up in something early as well. Unfortunate for him. And Zach was pretty Mr. Consistent all night. He wasn't quite as fast as me and Manning, but he was definitely like the tier below us, I would say. Below me, Phil, RJ, and Manning. So, but they were all, and Nicholson was fast too. I saw him early on in the race as well, but he started kind of falling off towards the end of that one run when we came to the stage break. So it's definitely a good points night for me. I led some laps. I don't know if I led the most laps. I gotta go back in the archive and look. But won the stage. So I got myself a playoff point and 10 more points to help me make this 6 race chase that we got going on later on in the season.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be a game changer later on this year. Congratulations on the win, Christopher Heller. You had a great race tonight, and thank you for coming in to talk to us.
Yep, thank you for the broadcast as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our top 3 for tonight, and we'll end off our interviews there. Wanted to talk to Jacob Manning. Sadly, we could not get him in, so we'll have to see if we could talk to him next week. But Kyle, where are we going next week? What's the schedule looking like?
Well, next week, we head to the high banks of Atlanta Motor Speedway, the newly paved Atlanta Motor Speedway here in the Xfinity cars, where they'll be doing 146 laps there, and that should be a blast, Atlanta, and I'm excited to see how those cars handle next week at Atlanta, Alex.
Yeah, these cars are definitely tricky there at that racetrack. It's a very, very fun one here in these Xfinity race cars, and I'm excited to see it.
Also, tune in on Tuesday, where we'll be running the Great Lakes Truck Series presented by Patty Engineering. We will be at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway for 120 laps on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And then at 8:30 Eastern Time on Fridays, we have the Great Lakes Premier Series. Like I mentioned, we'll be at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Any last thoughts, Alex?
My last thoughts are I'm looking for another fantastic green flag race like we had tonight here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, because the green flag runs at that racetrack are going to be fun to watch.
The green flag runs in Atlanta would definitely be a blast to watch. But I would like to thank all of you for tuning in today for Great Lakes racing coverage. I would like to congratulate Chris Heller once again on his victory tonight here at Phoenix. And we hope to see you either on Tuesday or Friday for more Great Lakes actions. And I would like to thank all of you for tuning into the Flatout Racing Network, and have a wonderful night.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.